Halo? Oczywiście.
Give me a sec.
Czy to znaczy, że już?
Does it mean that
Dobry,
it's time?
Spring Open.
Hello, Film Spring Open on the
Dniu,
penultimate
warsztatów,
day of
w środę,
workshops
wbrew pozorom, dzień
on
przedostatni,
Wednesday. A
wszystko
penultimate
nas
day,
czeka,
but there's
różnych
plenty
emocji,
of
wieczorem
emotions before us. In the evening, we'll have the screening of the films made by the participants of our workshops. And today, we still have some very interesting meetings. We're starting with a meeting with Konrad Aksinowicz, who's here with us from the very start. Behind you. Look out, the guy behind you.
Prowadzi grupę teledysku.
He's running the musical video group. The effects of the work of this group are very fruitful as far as I know. Yesterday we saw his film Return to Legoland, which was in the main competition of this year's feature film competition in Gdynia, and today Konrad will be talking about the behind the scenes and the making of that film. So if you would like to ask him any questions, here he's with us. I'm addressing that both to those who are here with us and those who are watching us in stream. And we also say hello to all of you online. Hello, Konrad. How are you? Return to Legoland was a title that was with me for 10 years. It has been with me for 10 years, but a few weeks ago I had to change the title due to legal problems of the world Legoland. So right now the name of the film is The Return to Those Days. I still have a problem, I must admit, with sort of feeling this new title, because the old title got so strong in my head that it is also, you know, and that title was very good, The Return to Legoland. It has in its title like the second layer, and you can think about it. The Return to Those Days is more talks more about nostalgia, but I think that it will finally be understood by the viewers in the right way. So let me go back to the origins, to the moment when I understood that such a film like a Return to Legoland, allow me to use the name Return to Legoland, it's easier for me mentally, even though the real name is The Return to Those Days, and the distributors quite often change the titles, and in other countries it might also sound differently. So also sometimes in Poland, when we watch like an international movie in Poland, and then we want to say which film we watched, then it occurred that the international title is not always the same as as the original. I quite often have this problem that I have a Punch Drunk Love by Paul Anderson is the lewy sercowy in Polish, which does not really match. Okay, I'll be just using the term Return to Legoland. So to all those who do not know anything about the film, let me just say that the topic of the film it's about a child who is being raised in the alcoholic house, in the house of an alcoholic, which is a very difficult topic to translate into film, and it is based on my life, and I'm a filmmaker. I thought that who, if not me, could make this film so that everybody could understand that and could identify with the problem. But I will talk about that a bit later. Believe me or not, but I thought about this film for the first time to make it in 1993. Sorry, 1994 exactly. When I went to see the Schindler's List by Spielberg. Before that, I loved films like everybody. I used to go to the cinema for The Return of the Jedi, Indiana Jones. These were the things that inspired me. All the films from the 80s were very inspiring, but not inspiring me to make films myself, but just to act, just to play with Lego bricks based on those films, to play to play out those films out in the courtyard with my friends. I never wanted to be I didn't want to be a director and to make films myself. But in the 1991, a colleague of mine had a video camera from her mom who lived in Germany, and we started to make like free films. I must admit that we were inspired by the Za chwilę dość programu TV show by Man and Materna. It was like a comedy show, and we tried to do things like they did. We were talking about the Lego bricks. In another film, we were talking about the Talisman, the board game. Now these films are later helped me to prepare to make the film Return to Legoland, because I came back to my films at some point and I understood that when I was making those films on video, not knowing that I will be a director, they were the most honest and true films. The same was with musical video. I was doing Depeche Mode videos, musical videos with a friend, and then when I was coming back to those films, I said, wow, how can you achieve what I did so honestly during those times? So the breakthrough was 1994 when I went to see the Schindler's List. I knew that Spielberg is filming that in Poland, that it's made in our backyard in a way. I knew that it's a film about Holocaust. But the hype on TV was so strong that I was so much into this film before I even saw it that on Saturday I went on Saturday morning. I remember it was the first screening on Saturday morning, and it was like a total enchantment for me. Because for the first time I was captivated, because I suddenly understood that the feature film is not, as a medium, is not only entertainment and moving pictures, but that it can change a human being within 3 hours, because this is how long the Schindler's List would last, together with my understanding of the past. Before that, I saw the four of the tank crew and the dog and some other like war films with Clint Eastwood. So I imagined the war, but in this film I felt the truth, that those people were really dying, and that the topic has been shown in a way which for me was understandable. It could be a pro and con. You might not believe that, but there's a lot of humor in the Schindler's List. I was studying this film, and there's a lot of humor there, even like very scary humor, like a terrific one. There's a scene, for example, where somebody stole a chicken, and the SS soldier says to the whole brigade, "Who stole the chicken?" And nobody wants to tell. And they take one man and they shoot one man, and it's horrible. And later, the soldier asks again, "Who stole the chicken?" And the small boy raises his hand, and we were sure that he will die in a second, that this is the end of him. And at this stage we already know that everything can happen. And the soldier said, was it you? He said, no, it was him. And he points to the guy who died. And it is a form of humor, but also understanding what were their reality, what were the conditions and the surroundings. I felt identity with the people of this huge problem, because I was a victim myself. I was a victim of living with a father who was an alcoholic, and if he starts to drink, he will be drinking for 3 months. A man who's living with us is a great dad. He's a beloved father that I love a lot. He's an actor. When he starts to drink, I know that I will have like 3 months of my life. 3 months for a teenager is a lot. It's a lot for everybody. And I remember when I came from watching Schindler's List, and after this black and white film, everything was so colorful, and my friend everything was colorful because the film was black and white for three hours, and my friend came up to me and said, "Listen, I just bought Martin's shoes and he started to boast about that. And I'm saying, what are you talking about, man? I've been into such a film moment. I'm in a totally different world. I understood so much about life, and you're talking about shoes, like Doc Martens shoes. Well, I went home. And I wrote a letter to Spielberg. Really. That it is a film that really made a huge impression on me. I was learning English, so I was writing that with the like this yellow dictionary.
Miałem do Amblin w ogóle do tej wytwórni miałem adres.
And I had the address to Amblin Productions because I was at the end of the film magazine. I was collecting that already. At the end of you can write to them. There was at the end of the film you can write to Harrison Ford or somebody else. So you can write to Spielberg. So I took that address and I wrote to him. But when I finished that letter, and when I sent it, I went home and I'm looking through the window. And my father is coming home and he's staggering. I said, oh fuck, I will have 3 months of my life again. And then I really thought, wow, I would make a film then about what happened to me, just like Spielberg did with the film about the Holocaust. I wonder if you can do that. That was my first thought. And since that time, well, years passed, and I was in Australia, I was in School of Visual Arts, I came back to Poland. In 2004, I started my career in advertising and musical videos. I went to, I was on the wave because this was a new thing, an abstract thing, until I started to get movie proposals. In 2009, I had a premiere of The Exchange, based on Cezary Harasimowicz's script. And there I remember that there was a scene where Piotr Gąsowski comes home drunk. I had a lot of challenges on that set because it was my first film with many stars. It cost €1 million. It was a lot for me. I was 28 years old, and that it was bigger than me. I had like this 7 beginners, friends who were making commercials with me, and for me, the most difficult thing was that we're not shooting that as it should be in the script, 1-to-1. When we have scene 1, then scene 2, then sometimes during the one day I had to shoot scenes which were the whole film away. So it was difficult for me to understand how to lead that actor when we're making an actor which is almost the last one. And then we were making scene 3 or scene 4. But I remember that was the moment when Gąsowski comes as a president, drunk home, and I felt that I know how to lead them. I knew how to lead the drunk guy because I know that from my own life. And then again, I got this reflection. It's something that I really know. It's something that I could really show in the future. The Film Exchange got horrible reviews. And it was so popular as the producers would like to, so the phone stopped calling me, stopped ringing. I didn't get any job in commercials, not in musical video. I almost didn't have any work whatsoever. And the phone people who I thought are my friends, suddenly it occurred that they were not my friends anymore. Nobody saw the film. They only heard about it, that it's bad. Only after 2 years, when it started to appear on TV, people started to call me. It's not as bad as they said, but at that moment I was like pretty down. I didn't know really what I was in the doldrums. I didn't know what will happen, and I talked to Gosia Hauber, a friend of mine from the old days, from my high school days, who for the first time told me about therapy. I wasn't very
taki chętny, by
willing
w ogóle słyszeć o czymś takim, bo
to
terapia dla
listen
mnie
about things
oznacza
like that, because
jakąś
for me
porażkę.
therapy meant some sort of
Powiedziałem,
failure.
Schodzisz na terapię,
So, you know, you going to
naprawdę
therapy
coś źle z
release
tobą
that
jest. A on
bad
mówi,
with
nie,
you?
stary, każdy
And he said,
powinien
no,
pójść do
everybody
terapii.
should go to
I powiedziała
therapy.
fajną
And she said
rzecz,
an interesting
do mnie
thing.
można przemówić w ogóle bardzo
You can
wizualnie.
actually talk to me very visually. That's what I understood in my life. If somebody talks to me with visuals, because I'm more a comic and media and video type of guy, rather than reading an article or anything that would be written for me.
To powiedziała,
She
to
said,
jest tak stary, jakbyś
it is
gotował
as if
wodę
you
cały
were
czas
boiling the
i
water all the
zatykał
time
po prostu, ten garnek,
and putting the lid
całą
on
siłą,
with your full
ale pewnego
strength
dnia i tak on wybuchnie.
on the pot, but someday it will explode.
30 lat,
So I said, wow, I'm
będzie
30
zaraz
years
będzie
old.
30 lat i-
I mean, I'll be
i
30
to może
soon,
tak się gotować,
and
gotować,
it
i
may
wybuchnąć.
boil and that might
Więc
explode.
wtedy, kiedy już
So
wiedziałem,
when
że
I
nic
already
się nie
knew that
wydarzy z
nothing will
karierą,
happen
że
with my career,
muszę zacząć
that I
dopiero
have to
od nowa,
start from the
bo
scratch,
ani nikt
because
nie chciał
nobody
mnie
wanted to
wybrać,
hire me
ani
in the
tym
commercial,
bardziej
in
w
musical
filmie.
videos
To
or in
było
film.
po
I mean,
prostu
in the
zamknięte
film,
Tak
the
jak
door
wcześniej
had
miałem
had
możliwość
closed
robienia filmu z
tight.
Larsem von Trierem,
Like before, I had the chance to make a
były
film with
rozmowy
Lars
już
von
o
Trier, and we had some
Fukuoka,
discussions
o
about
scenariuszu,
Konfuoko, about this
Cezarego.
script to Cezary
Miałem
Harazimowicz.
robić,
I was
w
supposed to
Rumunii,
make in
kolejny
Romania
film,
another film,
Matka Chrzestna i
The
i
Godmother,
dwa dni przed
and
kręceniem
2 weeks
odwołali
before
i to
we started
była
shooting,
wtedy,
I was cancelled because
krach na giełdzie i
there was a
po prostu
crunch on
przestało
the
to
on the
się
stock
opłacać.
exchange, and everything started to go into red. Love and Touch, another film. I declined to do that, and at some point I was left with nothing, and that maybe I will never make a film anymore, because the exchange had such a reception as it had. So I got a loan for 30,000 zlotys. I did that to pay my bills, not knowing if there will be any work and if I will be able to pay it back. And at that moment, I decided to go to group therapy. I decided that when should I do it if not now? And it occurs that in a therapy group, there are 12 angry men who are sitting there. They are mostly people who really got a beating from their life. They are not the people who are, high or on top of the wave. They are separating with a spouse. They have no work, or there was a crunch, and there was one guy who was he was working on the stock exchange, and he lost a lot of money. These were the people who came there for some sort of help. It's as if you were going to a tarot person. You don't go there when you don't have problems. They just go there when they have like a problem with like love problems, etc. And they are there for this, and they feel that aura. So each one of those 12 people had some sort of a problem, but not a problem with a drunk father or mother, or like a different one. So I fell in love, but he doesn't love me anymore. Or I lost my job, I don't know what to do. I have no money, and so on and so on. And after a few weeks of this therapy, I started to really get into it. I started to like it. It was even better than Netflix. It occurred that people are opening up, and they heal themselves because they are able to talk about traumas. And then you tell yourself, oh, it wasn't so bad with me. I mean, or I was worse than that. You're always thinking about yourself. But when you start to talk, and you talk about certain truths to 12 people, it occurs that whatever you thought throughout your life, that is a certain truth for yourself. It is not the same for those 12 people. I really recommend the group therapy for you because they are stronger than one-to-one therapies. Because those people can tell you, come on, what were you doing? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't she do that? Why didn't they do that? They're looking at a story just like you were watching a film. They said, why didn't you do this scene or that scene? So it's done. I mean, the life is done, and the story is done, and there are critics who can talk about that. And then I knew that such films should be made. Of course, I was afraid to do it because it is a form of opening yourself up to the full before yourself. It's also protecting. It was also about protecting my parents, because it's the story of my parents and the whole family. Do you need to be so egocentric to tell such
przez
such
czas
story.
myślałem,
For a long
że
time
to
I
nie
thought
jest dobre.
that
Aż do
it's not
momentu,
good
kiedy poznałem pewną
until
osobę
I
i się
met a person and I fell in love
2011
in
roku.
2011.
Miałem ochotę strasznie jej
I
powiedzieć
really
wiele
wanted
rzeczy,
to
ale nie
tell her a
potrafiłem.
lot of
Nie
things, but
wiedziałem jak.
I didn't know how.
Wiecie, to
You know,
jak
it's
człowiek
like
jest
when you're in
zakochany,
love,
to nie mówi na trzeci raz.
you don't say during the beginning, during your third date that you know my father was a drunkard, etc. No, you just don't do that. So I decided to write a script of the Return to Legoland, and I was writing that for 5 days non-stop.
Film później, to był, chciałem pokazać bardziej wtedy
At that time, I wanted to show that girl
że ja jestem trochę
that
zryty.
I'm slightly pummeled by all that. I'm living in 2011 and I have problems with people, with women, with everything, that I cannot buy a bun because or a piece of bread because I want to be so nice to everybody. When somebody's asking me, she gives me an old bun, I'm not able to say, I'm sorry, this is an old bread, a stale bread, but I try to be nice and so I buy it. And then I wanted to show a flashback, how all this happened. And there's 1.5 hour of film where we're moving on, where we're being transferred to 1990s, and I'm showing one-to-one how it is to live with an alcoholic father. Of course, the script, she loved that script and she told me to show it to other people, and I started to show this picture to producers. And there was a moment in 2011 that people said, well, this is too long, but I would not know what to change in this because it's so good.
Ja nie byłem chętny, by robić ten film.
And at that time I wasn't really willing to make that film because I believed if Spielberg made the Schindler's List at 45, then I decided, why should I make it as my next film when it's so serious? Maybe I didn't grow up to that. And that was, now I think it was a good mode of thinking, because if I did it at that time, this film wouldn't be as it is now. And so many things happened on the way. But the film was there, and we made this. We made this script reading rehearsals with the actors, and I saw the emotions it evoked in people. People started to open up. They saw it's very important. I had a number of fans, a number of people who really got sort of devoted their life to helping with that film. But I was slightly close to that film. Well, a part of me was telling me that
poruszam tak głębokie rzeczy, że
I am
wszechświat po prostu
tackling such difficult things that at some point there would be the world will give me a backlash. The world would have to react somehow. I thought that my father would die, and I didn't want my father to die. That maybe he will not be able to survive this pressure, and I will not survive this pressure. But after the next film, In the Spiral, which in a way is that part of DDA, of a person who cannot cope with life, with the film with Kasia Wankę and Piotr Stromowski, it was a moment in the life of those people that they love each other, but they're in a dysfunctional relation because they crave emotions at all times, and I also needed emotion as the DDA. The DDA is the adult alcoholic child of an alcoholic, and so I made this film, and I wanted to show it to father, and when it was screened in Starachowice, I asked my uncle to show it to my father, and my uncle said that my father is not able to do anything because it's really bad. He stays in his flat. It looks horrible. It looks like a total dump. And then I decided that, okay, it's time to make this film. So I started to do it as the next film. I said to Agnieszka Chromicka, listen, this will be our next project. I'm taking it on, and I will shorten it. And I cut off the whole part
tej współczesności.
of the modern
i został
time,
moment,
and only the moment
został moment
was left
tego, jak
of
przebiegało to w tych czasach.
how
Ale
this
cały
happened
czas
in
jeszcze,
the older
cały czas
times,
walczyliśmy o to,
but
żeby
in
to
the
było,
past, but we still sort of
żeby to była
fought,
współczesność.
struggled
nawet
for
przed
it,
kręceniem filmu,
we still
jeszcze w
wanted
tamtym
to
roku
locate it
mieliśmy 10
in
stron filmu, gdzie
contemporary
gdzie
times.
jest
We
pokazana
like
współczesność,
just
jak ten
before we
chłopak,
entered the
ten
set, we
facet
still
teraz,
were a
że-
big
że
part
je
of a
wygląda,
script.
utożsamiać w innej roli innego osobnika, innego
Identify with them
człowieka,
in the role of another
zresztą
person,
chciałem
of
bardzo,
another
żeby to był
character.
klasyczny,
I wanted this film to be
czyli
extremely
żeby
like very
operował
classical.
taką
I wanted it to
strukturą,
operate
z
a
drogi, w której nie ma
structure
powrotu,
of the
czyli w
road
momencie,
of
kiedy
no
Alex
return. So
zaczyna pić,
when Alex starts to
nieodwracalności
drink
kulminacji, że
and
jest coś
the
takiego w tym
irreversibility
filmie, że po
of the
prostu jest to skończone,
culmination.
bo przez jakiś czas
So
chciałem film
that
zakończyć,
I wanted to
że
finish
czas
this
się
film
kończy,
that he gets out of
wracają,
this
do
drinking
normalnego
bout, they
życia,
go back to their
a i
normal
tak
life.
człowiek wie, że coś
But
zaraz
you
może
know
cały czas powtórzyć,
that
nie?
it
Ale
can
to
repeat, the
ja
story
chciałem
can
właśnie
repeat itself.
nieodwracalnie to
I wanted
zrobić tak jak
to
w
make it
Szczękach,
like
Spielberga,
an
że-
irreversible
że-
ending, like with in the Jaws of Steven Spielberg.
że rekin się na
Then
końcu rozpiernicza i
at-
wiemy, że na
at-
pewno nie powróci. Oczywiście
the end-
wraca w kolejnej części.
At the
jako
end,
inny.
you know that the shark explodes and it will not come back. Of course, it comes back in the next installment as another
Myśląc
as a
o
different shark.
gatunku, bo
I was talking
nie jest sztuką zrobienia filmu
about the genre here because there's nothing
dziecku
special in
alkoholiku.
doing a
Sztuką
film
jest
about
zrobienie go
the
tak, żeby
child of an alcoholic,
żeby
the
pokazać
artist
plusy i
in
minusy,
presenting the
bo to
pros
nie
and
jest takie
cons because it's
czarno-białe.
not black and
To,
white.
to nie jest film
It's not a
Cześć
film,
Tereska, który uwielbiam,
Hi Tereska,
który po prostu
which
mówi
I
tylko o tych
love, which
czarnych,
tells you only
momentach
about
życia
the
bohatera,
evil
bohaterki.
parts of the life of the
Życie nie
protagonist.
jest tak.
Life
Moje
is
życie było
not so.
kolorowe,
My
miałem
life was
dobre
colorful. I
życie,
had good
miałem
life.
tylko problem
I
z
only
ojcem,
had a
więc
problem
po
with my
prostu chciałem
father,
to pokazać
so I wanted to
w
show
taki
it
sposób.
in such
Jest
a
taki
way.
film
There is a film,
Basketball Diaries z DiCaprio,
Basketball Diaries, with
okazuje się,
Leonardo
pokazane
DiCaprio,
jest, przez połowę
which
filmu,
for
jak
the
chłopak
half of the film
dorastał w
shows
świecie, chyba tam w
how
Brooklynie z
the
kolegami.
guy was growing up
To było
with
bardzo
his
wesołe,
pals in
fajne.
Brooklyn, and it
Na
was
pograniczu
fun,
właśnie Brooklyna
colorful, you know,
filmu
between
Spike'a Lee, którego uwielbiam.
between Brooklyn
później
and the
chłopak
Spike
zaczyna
Lee
ćpać
film, and
I pokazujemy
then the
jego
guy
ciąg
starts to
i
do
film
drugs, and we
zmienia się,
see
ale
him
cały czas jesteśmy
getting
z tym bohaterem do
deeper
końca,
and deeper in
bo
that,
go
and the
lubimy,
film starts to
wierzymy w
change,
niego.
but we want to be with this
Drugim
protagonist
filmem,
until the
który-
end because we
który wziąłem
believe in them.
tapetę,
The
chodzi o
second
film,
film
to
I
był
got,
obcy.
dissected.
Science fiction, tak,
It was
ale
The
struktura
Alien,
jest
or science
bardzo
fiction, of
podobna.
course, I know, but the structure is very
To jest
similar.
film
It's a
science fiction,
it's a
mógłby
sci-fi
być science
film.
fiction do
It could be a
momentu,
science fiction film
kiedy
until the
łapią
moment
potwora i
when
przenoszą
they
go
get
na statek.
this,
Do tego momentu on jest w
when they
swojej
get this
strukturze
creature
i
and they get
gatunku
him on
jak
board.
najbardziej
Until
po
that
prostu tak
structure,
jest.
it's like
Solaris
Solaris is
bardzo
very
prawdziwym filmem,
true, a very
fantastycznym
calm
naukowym.
film with a
Dopiero kiedy
science
przenosimy
and
potwora,
fiction is there,
mówię
but
obcym,
when we transfer the
zaczyna
monster,
się
the alien,
napierniczać wszystkimi,
and it
zaczyna
starts to
mordować i
murder
na końcu
people,
zostaje
and at the
pokonany.
end he's
No to jest trochę jak
he's,
ten alkoholik ojciec,
defeated.
który po prostu
He's like
odpala
alcoholic
mu się
father
po prostu picie
who suddenly
i
starts to
zaczyna po
drink,
prostu wprowadzać w
and he
tą
started
historię
to
po prostu dramat, a na końcu horror.
inject
Dużo
drama
się
and then horror into
uczyłem
the
o
story.
samym suspensie
I was
w
learning a
kinie.
lot about suspense in the cinema.
Zrozumiałem,
I
byłem na
understood.
takim panelu
I was
jakby
in a
teraz.
panel like you are
Byłem
here
na takim
today
dobrym
I was in a good
scenariopisarskim,
of
którym,
scriptwriting,
jakiś amerykański
where
scenarzysta
an American
tłumaczył,
scriptwriter
czym jest
was
suspense,
explaining what suspense
terror
really
i
is,
horror.
what terror is, and what horror
To
is.
są jedne z tych
These
lekcji, które po
are one of
prostu
those
zrozumiałem
lessons that I
totalnie.
understood totally.
Suspense odnosi się do
Suspense
przyszłości.
relates to the future.
Widz patrzy się na,
The
na
viewer
naszego
is
bohatera
watching at our
i
protagonist
boi się o
and is
niego, bo nie wie,
afraid
co
about
się
them because
wydarzy za
they don't
chwilę.
know what will happen
Czyli na przykład
in a while.
nawiązując
So,
do
for
tego filmu
example,
Powrót do tamtych
referring
dni,
to my film The Return to Those Days,
Alex z kuchni woła
Alex,
Helena, Helena, Helena
shouts
i
from the
my
kitchen,
jesteśmy
Helen,
przestraszeni,
Helen,
bo-
Helen,
bo
and
nie
we're
wiemy,
afraid
co
because we
oczekiwać.
don't know what to expect.
Chłopak mu mówi do matki, żeby
The boy
ona poszła.
tells the mother,
Matka mówi, że nie.
go,
Ale
and
zaraz
she says no, but
Dostajemy
in a while
kolejny
we
tekst.
get another text.
Tomek.
Tomek,
Ten
Tomek,
facet
Tomek.
krzyczy i
This
po
guy
prostu
is shouting,
Matka mówi
and
idź.
mother says go,
I mamy suspense,
and we have
ponieważ
suspense
my nie wiemy, co się
because we
stanie
don't
temu
know what will
chłopakowi
happen to
zaraz.
this boy in a
Odnosi
moment.
się do przyszłości.
This refers to
Tak
the
samo
future.
jest w
The same
wszystkich
is
filmach
with
Hitchcocka,
all
tak
the
samo jest
Hitchcock's film,
tak naprawdę w Obcym.
and the same
Nie
is
wiemy,
in
kto
The Alien.
zostanie
We don't know
zabity
who
i
will
jak,
be
po
killed
prostu
and how.
Mamy wielką ochotę,
And we
byśmy
really
przeżyli,
would
ale
like
to jest
everybody
ósmy
to
pasażer
survive,
Nostromo
but this is
właśnie.
the eighth passenger
W tym filmie
passenger of
Powrót do
Nostromo.
Legolandu, Powrót do
In the
tamtych dni.
return to
Alex
those days, Alec
takim, kiedy mu się odpala alkoholizm,
when his alcoholism kicks in, he stops being a member of the family, he becomes a monster, Darth Vader. And at some point I also realized why I love the Star Wars so much, because Darth Vader is the evil father, but Luke still believes that there is a spark of goodness in him, and I always believed in my father that he will stop drinking, that he's a good person, and I also wanted to present him as a good person and not just a pure monster, because life is not black and white, good or bad. There's always something in the middle. And this is suspense. Terror is a thing that refers to now. It's a moment where the alien attacks a guy, or when we cannot do nothing. This is the moment of terror where Alec is going out of his way to murder his family. I'm talking about my film, when a person who's sitting there can do nothing. And horror refers to the past. That everything that happened before in the film makes it stay with the protagonist, and in the horror films, this horror, the whole definition of the genre is only shown at the end of the film, because everywhere in the beginning, in the whole horror, the author uses suspense and terror and suspense, terror, and joke, another story. At the end, you always have a scene in horror. You always have a scene where the protagonist knows already that they have defeated the monster, but horror stays with them. Horror, that he will always be looking behind his shoulder if a guy from Halloween would not attack him. That he will be always, when he was swimming, that there's no shock. This is the horror. And this is also how I wanted to show it at the end of this film, that when the boy has gone through all that, we know, as the viewer, that the horror will stay. It was just like in the Schindler's List. At the end, we see people who survived all that. They put stones on the grave of Oskar Schindler. And we are also showing that they are real people. That's why I put my face at the end of the film, and the picture at the end of this film. Maybe I put it in a week before the finishing of the film. I wanted to put it at the end of the credits, because I was slightly afraid, but I decided I have to do it. Because then I could tell my viewer, this is true story. These people were existing. These people are within you. So I really wanted this film to have a classical structure, coming from the coming of age type of film, like Amarcord, my own Amarcord. That's how I saw it. And the horror, a film which is supposed to encourage people to therapy. This is a form of therapy too, so that you could understand that it's better to think about it and cure yourself, heal yourself. Let's now talk about the first part of the film, the more jolly one. I'm a great fan of 1990s. As I said already, I was making films in those times which said about the toys like Lego or the Talisman, the board game. I really wanted those elements to be in the film. When I was coming to my own backyard to Szczepin, and we were sort of drinking beer in the courtyard, looking whether the police is not seeing us, we had discussions. Oh, Konrad, we have to make a film about us. You know, it would be so fun. Do you remember how we were like playing in the courtyard? Everybody, and how we collected Lego. Everybody wanted to have Lego, and nobody had it. I said, "Oh, grand, Katon." That was a nickname of a guy. Or Wiesiu Pieron, another friend. Okay, I said, okay. But I knew that I cannot tell this my own story truly without, honestly, the fun story, of course, it was fun, but not really, because my father was drinking and he destroyed my world. And I also want to show that. So I wondered, what if I could convince all those people that they would feel safe in my film, you know? sometimes films have those, the director makes those difficult scenes in the beginning because they've learned in the classes that they make like this big boom earthquake in the beginning. And I said, I will not do it like this. I think I will start with a very documentalist, long scenes. I want to show this place. I wanted to show how it is to wake up in 1992 before watching 5, 10, 15, a program for the youth on such a day, when this program is not, when the TV set is not starting immediately, but you had to like wait 3 minutes before my black and white TV set started to work. I didn't do it the same way in the film, but it does take time to start because I wanted to show it's a different world. That I was a single boy, my mother made, I had the Lego bricks, my mother made sandwiches for me. I also had a chance to get a better package because my father was in Canada, and I really pushed him to buy Lego for me. Well, Lego is a totally different topic. I love Lego bricks because they are so designed that they are so colorful in the world of they were so colorful in this gray world of Socialist Republic of Poland. When I was watching the Star Wars, before that I was watching, they always shot the chronicle, the film chronicle. It was black and white world. It was my world. I don't know what they were talking about. They were like talking shit, but it was dark and grey and dull, and the reality was even more dull. And suddenly the curtain went apart, and then I saw Indiana Jones or Star Wars, and the world was beautiful and beautiful. In the E.T. movie, I love not only that E.T. is a great UFO person, but I also love that they have like those bikes and they eat pizza and all that. So I used all those little gadgets in the first part of the film so that you could believe in that world. That's why when we were supposed to change the topic, the name Return to Legoland, my producer said, I know how to keep that title. He said, well, let's come back to let's name it Return to this land. And I said, no, but this would be a fake. It's like buying a Panasonic instead of Panasonic. You know, this first shot is the Star Wars, where you see this whole huge carrier or this huge spaceship passing by, and that was the moment when you buy it, when you think it's credible. And George Lucas knew if they don't buy the first scene, they would not buy the whole film, and that was the same with my movie. I got it from the Kramer versus Kramer film. There was the scene with the boy getting up and going to the toilet, and that's what I wanted to show too. I wanted to show also that this is an apartment. It's like there's peace here. There's people feel good in here, and in a moment, in 45 minutes, you will see how we move to a different place. In the same location, you will have war. Everything will fall apart. Very slowly I inject this war into this room where finally gets us this terror grabs this family. Only the suspense was in the beginning. Okay, coming back to the first part. It is a part where I wanted you to understand and to say exactly that was the same. It was exactly the same with me. I remember that. Coming back to Australia, I went to Australia and I started to talk to my friends. And how did I get into this world that I was living with Australians for 6 years, and they considered me to be one of them. We were listening to the same music, we had the same Lego. So I could say, in the 95 I had this Lego. He said, wow, same here. And that was our point of connection. And I'm also thinking that I think that this film is not only for the Polish viewer, it's the film for the whole world. Recently I've been to the Gdynia Festival, and I talked to an American from Seattle and said, wow, I had the same, I had the same Lego bricks. I was listening to that music, and I have friends who had alcoholic fathers. Now I understand everything thanks to you. Thank you very much. And she saw that in the film. So this film has the potential to be understood understandable by other people, and it can help many people. So coming back to the Mary part again, the Mary part of the film has
żeby się widz
the
poczuł
aim to
bezpiecznie
make you
i
feel
uwierzył.
safe and to
Jeżeli oni
believe
wierzą
in
w
that
mój
film.
świat,
If you
wierzą w
believe
to podwórko, wierzą w
my
tych
world, this
bohaterów,
courtyard,
tych
those
ludzi,
protagonists, those people,
tam jest dużo komediowych.
you have a lot of
ja się
comedy
zawsze
elements
cieszę,
in there.
jak
I'm
jestem
always
z widzami
happy
na
when
tym
I'm
filmie.
with the viewers
W tych momentach,
watching
kiedy
that
trzeba,
film
wszyscy się śmieją.
and when everybody's laughing in the
jest
right
jeden
moments.
tekst,
And there's one text,
zapraszam cię na komputer,
I
który wywołuje salwę.
come
Tam
to
w
me-
Gdyni wywołał
come to me
salwę
for a
po prostu. Ja
computer.
mówię,
and in
ja
Gdynia
pierdzielę,
people were
każdy
like
o tym
laughing
pamięta, albo-
their heads
albo
off, and I
przewijanie
said, wow,
kasety, nie? To są
everybody
takie
remembers
małe
that,
rzeczy,
or
trzeba przenieść-
or
po prostu
rewinding a
każdy-
cassette.
Kiedy wy się śmiejecie
So when you're
z tych
laughing
części filmu,
about those
ja wiem,
parts of
że
the film,
wy
I know that
jesteście moi,
you are
bo
my people
ja was
because
prowadzę.
I'm leading
Mówię
you.
wam, pamiętacie jak było?
I tell you, do you remember how it was? Yeah,
Tak, pamiętam.
of course
No
we
to
do.
teraz zobaczcie,
And
jak to
now
jest być
see
starym alkoholikiem, okej?
how it is to be an old alcoholic.
I wtedy
And
zaczyna
then
się.
then things
Dla tych,
start.
którzy nigdy
For those
nie
who have
wiedzieli,
never
nie
known,
byli,
who never
mogą się
knew
w końcu
how it was, they
poczuć z
can
tym chłopakiem,
finally
bo
feel
byli
with
przez
that
50
boy because
minut.
they've
Byli
been with
z
him
nim
for
w momentach,
50
kiedy-
minutes. They've been
kiedy
together
zdobywał
in moment
dziewczynę,
when he was
kiedy
getting a
miał
girlfriend,
chłopaków,
when
kiedy
he had
się
his
dzieją
pals.
jakieś rzeczy. Teraz jest facet, który po prostu
Now
z
it's
ujęcia na ujęcie jest
now
coraz bardziej
suddenly we see a
nieprzystępny,
guy who is
jest
a
inny.
who's different
I powiem wam
from one scene to another, and he's starting to be
Wiedząc to,
untouchable, and
jak-
he's
jaką mam
becoming
przewagę nad
sinister.
wami,
And
wtedy,
knowing
kiedy
the
jesteście, kiedy
the advantage I
kino
have
zaczyna się
over you
robić
when the
ciche.
cinema
Tam
starts
są
to
jeszcze
be
jakieś
silent, you know,
tam
they're like
są
people
jakieś
start to
sceny jeszcze,
snigger,
gdzie
the
widzowie się
scenes
trochę
where people sort
uśmieją,
of
ale już
still
bardziej
there are
nerwowo.
so
To jest już
nervous
trochę na
sniggers
granicy właśnie
right
jakiegoś
now on
takiego,
the verge of some
paradoksu.
of a paradox rather.
Co można z tym zrobić?
What
Można się
can be
tylko
done with
śmiać,
that? You
ale
can
on
only
tam jest
laugh,
taki.
but this
Jest
boy is
taka
there.
scena,
There is a scene
kiedy jest ujęcie na Alka, który po prostu
Where
zaczyna
there is
robić siku, nie?
where
to
Alex
pierwszy
starts
taki
to
mocny
piss.
moment,
It's a very
Kiedy
first very
mamy
strong
point of
moment
view
where we have a
naszego
point of view of
bohatera.
our protagonist,
I ja chciałem,
and I
żebyście
wanted
wszyscy
you
zaczęli
all
s-
to start
zadać sobie pytanie.
ask
No
yourself a
ja
question.
pierniczę, no miałem
Fucking
tak
hell.
dobrze,
It
bo mi
was so
tak
good
dobrze
in
w
my
tym
life.
świecie.
I was so
A
feeling
teraz
so good in this
każesz-
world, and now
Każesz mi
you
oglądać
force
to, jak
me
facet po prostu sika, po
to
prostu
see the
widzę,
guy
jak po prostu
pissing.
na tych majtkach pojawia się
You can
bąk.
see the piss
Czemu
on
mi
his
to
pants. Why
robisz?
are you
Dlaczego
doing
mi
that to
każesz to
me?
oglądać?
Why are you forcing me
Cięcie,
to
okazuje się, że to
do
chłopak
that?
widzi.
And cut.
Ja cały
This
czas
is
mówię,
what the boy
poczekajcie, nie
shows.
martwcie się.
Wait, don't worry, I say.
To nie jest wasza
This is not
historia.
your story.
To jest tego chłopaka,
This is the
on to
boy's
musi
story.
oglądać.
He has to watch that,
I to on musi to przeżywać.
and he has
Więc
to
to
experience
przeżywają
that.
ludzie, którzy
So this is
mieszkają z
what-
takimi ludźmi.
Well, this is the experience of
Nie?
people who live
I
with
tak dalej,
with
tak dalej.
the
Tak
alcoholics,
samo w
So-
szkole.
and so on and so on.
Myślicie, że
Same
ja
in
nie
the
chciałem
school.
dać więcej
Don't you
tej
think I want
imprezy?
to give
Przecież
more
tak
of that
świetnie
of
się
that party?
oglądało,
You know,
po
it was
prostu
so
fajnie
great to
jest na
see that.
imprezie.
It's good to be at the party.
Chciałem pokazać wam.
I wanted
Tak, ten
to
chłop ma
show
cały
you
czas swoje życie i cały czas próbuje mieć życie z przyjaciółmi.
that this boy
Próbuje
tries
mieć
to
życie z
regain
swoją
his life. He
dziewczyną,
wants to have
tańczy
life
z nią,
with his
po
girlfriend. He
prostu, bo
dances
jest
with her
odważny,
because he's
ale
he's
zaraz
bold.
przechodzimy znowu
But
do
then
mieszkania.
we're moving back
Żebyście
to
pomyśleli sobie,
to his apartment
"O mój
so that
Boże,
you could think,
znowu
oh
tu,
no,
albo tak
not
fajnie
again.
tam."
It was so.
Tak, bo
We're
tak
here again. It
było.
was
I
so
tak
fun
ci ludzie,
down there,
bo ja
and that's
rozumiem
how it
swoich
worked
ludzi.
because
Ja przede wszystkim rozumiem tych ludzi, którzy mieli te same doświadczenia co
because
ja.
yeah, I can mostly
I-
understand because
i
I do understand
pokazując
people
to-
who had the same experience as me,
Jakby
and showing
mówię
that
DDA,
to you, I'm
słuchajcie, nie
talking
jesteście
to
sami.
the
ja też tak
adult child of
miałem.
children of
I
alcoholics.
jesteście
You're not
wspaniałymi
alone.
ludźmi,
I know
potraficie
you.
ryzykować,
You're
to
fantastic
wy
people.
zaprosicie
You can
koleżankę,
take risks. You will
do
invite
tańca, wszyscy
the
będą
girl
stali pod
to
ścianą.
dance, and
To
everybody will
wy
be standing by
będziecie
the wall.
grać
You
na
can
pianinie,
play the piano.
robić inne rzeczy,
You
piszecie
can do
poezję,
other things. You writing
jesteście
poetry.
skryci,
You
bo
are
chcecie być fajni.
Introvert because
tak
you
naprawdę
want to be
Ja wiem, co
fun,
byście
but
przeżyli, bo
I know
ja
what
to
you've
samo.
been through
Teraz
because
jest
I have the
możliwość, żebyście
same.
mogli to zobaczyć.
Right now you have a
Teraz jest
chance to
możliwość,
see that.
żeby-
Now
żeby,
you have a chance to
wasz chłopak,
for your
który się z wami
boyfriend
rozstał,
who
przez
left
wasze
you because
takie plusy i
of
minusy,
your
mógł
ups and
zobaczyć,
downs could
jaka
see
była geneza tego,
what was
że
the
się tak czujecie
origin,
teraz, a nie inaczej i tak dalej.
why you
Więc-
feel like that
więc
right now.
Taki był film, tak to było konstruowane.
So that's
Jest
what the
jeszcze
film was, and
kolejna
that's
rzecz,
how it
którą
was
bardzo chciałem
built.
pokazać.
There was
Nie chciałem, żeby
another
film
thing I
był,
wanted to show you.
czarno-biały.
I didn't want the
Jest
film to be
sobie
black and
facet,
white.
jest
There's a
pijany,
guy,
jest
he's
niedobry,
drunk,
po
he's
prostu
bad,
najlepiej
he's
byłoby
evil,
z niego zrezygnować,
and it would be
ale nie
best to
możemy
sort of
sobie
let him go, but we can't let him go because he has power.
Pytałem się bardziej, czy
My
lepiej
question
jest
was
pijany
father,
Czy lepiej mieć
when I was
ojca
writing
alkoholika, czy żadnego?
the script, is it better to have an alcoholic father or no father at all? That's why I added those boys who didn't have a father. No, Moskit doesn't have a father, who has just a mother who's a prostitute, and
panią, która
and
po
a
prostu...
Catholic
Ja
lady.
tam nie chciałem
I didn't
robić
want
właśnie
to
przemocy,
make
ale chciałem
add
zrobić
violence in
właśnie,
there, but I
żeby
wanted to show that
pasem,
she hits him with
jedyny
a
atrybut
with
mężczyzny
a leather belt. The only
u tego Daniela to
male
jest pasek
attribute
męski, nie?
at the Daniel's house is the man's
Miała
leather
bardzo
belt.
surowo wychowywała i
I remember I
pozwoliła
had a
atrybutem
friend
męskim
who
w jego
was
mieszkaniu był
raised
pasek.
very
Czyli to są
strictly
dwie
by his mother,
czynności
and
mężczyzny, to jest ten pasek pozostawiony męski, którym ona polała
and so
kamień
the only thing he knew was
chciałem
that
pokazać,
about
może
being a
ja
man
miałem
was this
alkoholika,
leather
ale
belt
ten
that
miał
she
taką
hit him with
matkę,
when
ten miał
he
taką
was
matkę,
coming
a
back
ten miał ojca
home
niby fajnego, ale nie pozwalał mu się bawić
after
zabawkami.
hours. So for example,
Kazał mu po
I
prostu
felt
się
like
uczyć,
this,
no
but
i
this
tak dalej.
guy had
Każdy
no
miał
mother, the
swoje.
other one had
Chciałem
no mother,
pokazać,
and
że
the
to
other
nie
one
jest
had a
tylko
father who
takie
didn't allow him to
czarno-białe,
play.
że
So
każdy z nas ma jakąś rysę
it's not the
w
black
tym
and
czasie.
white.
Każdy ma
Everybody
swój
has
powrót
some
do
sort of
Legolandu. No i
blemish
chciałem-
in their
i chciałem się zastanowić,
bio. Everybody has their own return
to
to
jest
Legoland.
czy to jest
So I
choroba,
wanted to.
czy
My
nie.
question was: is that
I widzę
an
teraz, jak
illness,
oglądam
an affliction, or
widzę
not?
po
And now when I'm
serii,
watching that,
jak
because
mam okazję zobaczyć
whenever I
film,
have a
spójrz
chance
właśnie,
to
że
see
patrzę na was w momentach
the
dla mnie
film,
ważnych.
I'm looking at
kiedy
the faces
jest
of my
scena, kiedy-
audience in the moments which are
Kiedy,
important to you. And when
Tomek mówi,
there's
"Dlaczego
a
nie
scene where
wyjedziemy
Tomek says,
stąd?"
"Why don't we
To ja
leave
wiem,
this
że wy się
place?"
pytacie
Then
razem
you're
z nim,
asking
"No
that the
właśnie,
same.
czemu nie wyjedziecie
Yes,
stąd?"
why don't you leave this
Matka
place?
mówi,
And mother
że
says,
każdy powinien mieć ojca.
everybody
On
should have a
mówi,
father.
To, co już my wiemy, ale
And we know already, but Moskit and the other and Daniel don't have that.
Rozmawiam, bo ja wiem,
And
że
I'm
wy się
talking to
pytacie.
you
To jest
because
taka
I
jedna
know
z tych
that
scen,
these are
kiedy
the
po
questions
prostu
that you're
ja wiem,
asking.
że
It's one of
wy
those scenes when
potrzebujecie
you
tych odpowiedzi
need those
i-
answers,
a ta matka po prostu mówi swoje.
and this mother just
Ale-
tells her thing.
Ojcowie nie sikają.
The fathers,
Ona mówi,
I
że
mean,
to
she
jest
says
choroba, twój
it's
ojciec jest
an
chory.
illness. He's
Ale
ill.
ojcowie
but
nie
fathers
sikają i pod
don't
siebie,
Piss
chorzy
their
ludzie nie sikają
pants.
pod siebie,
The
nie są tacy
ill people
mili.
are not pissing their
Są,
pants like
są.
that, and they are not
No
so
i znowu się
nasty.
okazuje,
Well,
że
they are.
Patrzę wasze nasze twarze.
And I'm looking at your
Mówię
faces,
wam, oglądam
and I'm
twarze
watching
i
your
jest-
faces really,
no
and
tak.
everybody says, "Oh yeah."
Jest taki moment. Po prostu, że
There's
po
this
prostu
moment
jesteście prowadzeni
when
po
you are
prostu-
led,
no
and you
tak,
said,
kurde,
"Okay,
ja
yeah,
pierniczę.
fuck."
Jesteście jakby uczeni
You're
przeze mnie,
You were
przez
taught
matkę,
by me,
że
by
się
my,
to
by
wszystko
this
wymyśliłem.
mother, because I
Wierzycie
made
w
up all
matkę,
that. But you believe
wierzycie
this
w
mother.
chłopaka,
You believe
wierzycie w
that
tego-
this boy. You
w tą
believe
sytuację.
the
I po
situation.
prostu mówię wam, ej, a może to nie jest
And I'm
tak,
telling
może to jest
you,
choroba, a może
maybe it's
może
not
ci chorzy na raka,
how you think.
chorzy
Maybe
na jakąkolwiek
it's like
chorobę,
an illness.
są tak
Maybe
samo
the
nieprzyjemne,
case,
są niemili.
the cancer patients are
Ja
equally
osobiście nie miałem nigdy osoby chorej tak
unpleasant,
długo,
etc.
ale
I've never been
słyszałem,
with
że
such
są
an
osoby,
ill
które
person
są
for such a
długo
long time,
leżą
but I know
w
that
łóżku,
people who are
są niemili.
bedridden for a very long
Uciekają
time,
od
they're
tacy
you know, they
sami.
piss their pants
Może
and
nie
they're
tacy, nie?
equally
Nie
unpleasant.
tacy,
Maybe
którzy
not
tam
as
zamknąłem się,
unpleasant. They do
mogą
not.
się potwora
They
zabić,
cannot
ale
change
to
into
też
a
chciałem
monster
pokazać.
at
Chciałem
every
pokazać,
moment.
że
This is also I
nigdy
wanted
nie
to
wiecie,
show
kiedy
you.
się może
You
wydarzyć
never
coś
know
złego.
when something
Dlatego
bad
ta
can
scena
happen.
jest
That's why
dosyć długa,
this scene, which is
zaznaczona
quite long,
kulką i to, co się dzieje wcześniej, kiedy
and whatever
przecież
happens
to miało
before,
się skończyć dzień,
it
dobranoc,
you know.
nie? Ja w ogóle wcześniej chciałem dłużej na tej
I wanted
twarzy
to show this
tego,
face for a longer time of the protagonist, to show that he's falling asleep, and for us to feel safer. But I decided that I will make it as the next scene when he says good night, and the next scene where after a few hours when you have the boom, and this boom, and you don't know what's happening, and the boy has to move from being deep in his sleep. He has to fight for survival for his mother and protect himself and her.
Więc tak to pokrótce wygląda. Posłuchajcie, może
Listen.
potrzebuję teraz jakichś pytań.
Now I need your
jeżeli w
questions,
ogóle są.
if there are any
Bo
questions
ten
at all,
monolog musi
because
skończyć.
my monologue is done.
Więc jeżeli czujecie, że coś możecie
So
powiedzieć, to
if you
to
think
wyglądają,
or you
to jest
believe that you can
ten moment, bo
ask something, this is
oczywiście
the
mogę o
moment.
nim mówić,
Of
wiecie,
course I can talk
bardzo
about this
długo,
film
ale
for hours, but I
może
think
o tym-
it will
Czy
help me
jest- czy
if
jest
you
coś, co-
direct me somehow. Is there anything?
Już sorry, mam coś z karkiem. O, fuck.
Ja mówiłam, że muszę ten zajęcia jogi będę robić.
I will be doing the yoga
No,
classes
rób.
next year.
No,
To jest przedostatni dzień, jesteśmy też
This is
na
the
jakimś
penultimate day where
maratonie,
it's
po
like a
prostu.
marathon.
Co się tu teraz dzieje?
What's happening here
Wielu
now?
ludzi
It's just
oglądają.
crazy.
W
I
tym
mean, for you
momencie
who watch us online,
wielu z uczestników
at the moment the
kończy
majority
swoje
of
filmy,
my
teraz je
participants
muszą być
are
pokazane,
finishing their
więc
movies
teraz
because
jest
they're
walka o montaż
they're
i ostatecznym
they have to be shown. So there's a fight for editing in the editing room. Everybody's watching, thinking about the premiere. They will have a premiere. I'm doing 3 musical videos. My video group is gone because they're doing another musical video right now.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much for this film.
wstrząsający.
It's really moving.
Czy jak
But you
piszesz
know that when you're writing a
to
script,
piszesz najpierw
are you
opowiadanie,
writing
czy
first
od razu piszesz scenariusz?
a short
Czy
story, a
najpierw,
novel,
masz
or
takie,
do you start already with a
nie wiem,
script?
plamy,
Do you have like
co
I don't know
przeżyłeś, refleksje,
reflections and
piszesz
ideas, and you
scenariusz,
collect them and you
piszesz
base a script based on them, or do you write outright? I have do scripting masters. It's better to have 2 than 10, of you understand, or maybe 1.
Ja wszystko przeczytałem
I read everything about script writing by Paul Thomas Anderson, who's my favorite contemporary director, and Woody Allen. So there are 2 schools. Woody Allen has a box with his things, like those little flashcards. He collects things. When he says something, he just buries them in the box. And there's a moment when he has to write a script, and this is this starts when he stops editing. He sits down at this box and he says, "I always wanted to make a film about how I wanted to be a juggler because he likes tricks. I also want to be a thief. I will combine this being a juggler and a thief, and recently I saw a young girl who fell in love, and he puts that in, and basing on that he made a storyline which takes up to 2 weeks, and then writes and sends it, and it's ready for production. It's gone.
Widziałam, że też taką
Spike Lee has also this kind of act. Well, because it's an interesting thing. It's good to have such a box, you see. And there's Paul Anderson who writes a script, but he writes an ironing. So in an ironing way. So he's writing and coming back. He reads, changes, writes, goes back, and a bit more, and comes back. I like to write like that because then I have this energy. Until you like it, then you write it, and that's how the first version is done. In case of the Return to Those Days, I really wanted to make this film, so I was open to the producers who had their remarks and their opinions. Although just before shooting the film, I've read as a quotation of some author: if you write your own story, which is really real, so don't allow anybody else to hold the pen. And this allowed me to make drastic changes in June in the script, so that it would be totally mine, because I felt if I am the one in the spotlight and I'm responsible for this film, then people would come over to me and they don't know what to say. I mean, some people say they're sorry, some people hug me. I really wanted this film to be my film, and I think this should be with every film, especially if it's your own story, more or less. This is something that you like. When I watch that film, this is my first film out of the 3, I have no problem with anybody leaving the room, anybody hating it. Maybe I don't have a problem with anybody condemning me for anything, because this is the film I really wanted to do. It's much more difficult for me to defend films which are not totally mine, and there is something I don't like this, there's something I don't like in the film or musical video or something. As long as I like it, it's okay. It is also helpful in directing that when this small guy I also had that with this film, that when the film was was actually ready and I wanted to change the font. I want to make a font like from thrillers. And I said, I want to change the font, but they said, we did such a beautiful, colorful font for 3 weeks, and now you want to change that? I said, yes. And I give 7 arguments because I believe that. If I am not fully convinced myself, then I stop the process of struggle, of fighting. This is how it's happening with the distribution right now. I had the moment when I wanted to fight for the poster, because we had a very beautiful poster which is not very invasive. The family is walking at on the background of my district, Szczepie, which I love, and I made a deal that this will be on DVD and then Blu-ray in the future, because I believe this is the main
Ale teraz
the main
do
poster that
momentu,
should be
że
there.
my chcemy
But
sprzedać
at the
ten
moment
film, chcemy, żeby
when we
poszli
want
do
to
niego
sell this
ludzie.
film and we want people to go and see that film, Maciej Sztur,
Weronika Książkiewicz i Teodor
Weronika
Koziak
Książkiewicz i
są
Teodor Koziak, they're on the
jakby
blue,
całą rodziną, nie?
they're on the blue
To
background and
wygląda
they're a
dla mnie
family.
i będzie
And for me
wyglądało
it
dla
looks,
wielu
and
ludzi,
for
którzy
many people
idą
who
do galerii
would
handlowych
see,
jako komedia romantyczna.
would go to
Szczególnie
a
jak przyjdzie po 10 grudnia, widzę,
commercial
że
gallery,
będzie
it would look
to-
like a romantic comedy.
będzie to po prostu
Because
świąteczne.
it
Pójdą
will
na listy do M,
they would go
prawdopodobnie w
to
pierwszym tygodniu.
to letters to M
I niestety
because it will
dostaną
be
łupia. Niektórzy
published
się
on
z tym
in the
pogodzą
beginning of
i
December, so it
będą,
will be people would
rozczarowani.
think it's a family film.
Ale
Many people will go and they will be disillusioned.
zachęcę
But only in
ludzi
this
do
way
tego,
I
żeby
will
zobaczyli ten film.
encourage
Może
people
pewna
to see that
część tych
film
ludzi
because some of those people might
żeby
later
nigdy nie zobaczyli tego filmu, bo
never
nie
watch
byli
that film
gotowi
because
na
they would never be
to.
ready for it. If you know it because you've read, I said, I'm not ready for this film. And I understand that. I respect that because this film will be there. It is in existence, so they will see it in a year, maybe 2, maybe in 10 years, maybe never, knowing that it is there. But there are some people who would go to see that film just like you. Never, you didn't know what this film is about, and you got pummeled with this film, and you could say to someone, there is a film like that. Even if today you have mixed feelings about that you sort of tricked us because it was supposed to be fun, but it wasn't really fun. But that was my life, and this is the life of people who live with alcoholics. That's the film I made. There is no other film like that throughout the world. Nobody made a film from the point of view of a child. Yes, I just wanted to congratulate you because you made a film which is a separate genre, I think. It's something that you cannot compare to anything. It's a film about a cause, and we're leaving the cinema, we're leaving this story, and I think this film will evoke a lot of reactions, or maybe not, or maybe it will disappear. I think it will change the thinking of many people about that.
Dlatego to jest fascynujące.
But this is fascinating that there is a film like
jak
that.
sobie słucham tego, co opowiadasz,
Well, now that I'm listening to you talking about that, I understood one thing. I understood why I like your book so much. Because I don't know if you know, my friends, but we have before us a guy who wrote a very inspiring book for filmmakers, and it's a book which has very good narrative. It's very well written, and you know what I understood? I understood that what I like in this book is your honesty, that you're opening up, that you're so vulnerable, that this is so true, and this touches me so much that it's absolutely fantastic. But tell me, how else could I do that? I don't know, but you did it in such an inexplicable way that I feel it. After one page, I can't take it anymore. I mean, I'm defenseless. I open up this book at any page, and you disarm me. And I understood this because that's my question for you. How do you feel with telling this story so honestly? Which process occurred in you? What do you feel? Do you feel like relief or whatever? Remember, I'm just after the Gdynia Festival, I got a bit of a pummeling because I didn't get any award. So I'm a bit confused because the film has the best reviews I could imagine. I didn't read a single bad review. Film evoke emotions, people love that, but I saw a few days ago my friends who won the prize at Gdynia Festival. So the songs on love, the producer and the director was sitting in such euphoria and happiness, and I would like to experience that too, because I'm a bit like Rocky, who gets pummeled every time, and there's another installment. I know there will be another installment of Rocky will take place because I'm a fighter, and I know I will get up after all this. But at the moment where I would want to feel that whatever I did is important. You are sort of forecasting your own future. You said you will see that this film will be great. But that's what people told me 3 weeks ago. You see, you'll be showered with awards. It's not about awards. It's about something more important. Since yesterday, we weren't talking about anything but only about this thing. about your cause.
I każdy referuje do
And
takiej
everybody
sytuacji,
refers to
którą
the
zna,
situation that they
jak
know,
się zachował
how
i jak
they
mógł się
behaved
inaczej
and how
zachować na
they
przykład.
could have
To jest
behaved
właśnie
differently. And this is how it is.
Przyszłość to jest,
The
to
future
jest nasza premiera 10
is your
grudnia.
premiere on the 10th of December.
Ja się teraz czuję, nie?
That's how I
Wracam
feel
sobie
it.
teraz z tej
And go back
kolonii, bo tak nazywam,
from a half
Spring
colony,
teraz
sorry,
wchodzę na plan
half
tego,
summer camp, because this is how I call
fizycznego, ale
Film Spring Open. I'm making a film about a film for kids about chemistry. Then there's my birthday. Then I go to Tallinn. I will have confrontation with international audience. I will see how this film will be getting there.
Z jakiej sekcji?
Do you know in which section it is?
Filmy młodzieżowe. w ogóle.
Young people's
W
films.
szoku jestem, że
I'm
jest film
shocked
sekcji młodzieżowej. Jeżeli
that
naprawdę
it's in a
jeśli to
youth
jest jakaś
youth
młodzieżowa
film
sekcja,
section.
no to
If there's any youth section,
dostaną
they
wielkie,
will
no,
really
po
get a
prostu
pummeling.
sorry,
I'm
ale
sorry,
no
but
trudno, no,
I'm
w
sorry. I
takiej
mean, but
sekcji jestem, ale jestem w
I can't
konkursie.
do. I'm in a competition because otherwise, you know, it would be just screening. But so that means that it will open up the door to all other B-class festivals, and I will be able to show that film normally. I really hope that it will that it will be shown in Tallinn. Somebody will see it, get interested, and it will have its fair share of traveling. But the most important for me is the weekend on the 10th of December, where people will go to this film. For me, it is important when people would, every day people would go and see that film because they've read, because they got interested, because there is some word of mouth, like viral marketing of this film. The word of mouth is going around. So in 3 months we will see if they will say on TV news, everybody's going to psychoanalysts. There's no places left. It's a new business and a new trend. Owsiak decided to collect the money for the therapy of the whole country. As you can see, I do have a big imagination of or image of what I would want this film to do. I have 2 questions. One refers to the protagonist and the actor. Did you work on the set or before with a psychologist? Because the last scene, well, it's a traumatic scene. I believe that in life, and for the boy who's a beginner and had to play something like that, I sort of, it really touched me. I couldn't sleep for a night. Well, same here. When this boy started to cry on the set on the last day, I knew that. You don't know me very well, but I'm a freak. I don't watch many films, but I watch the same films over and over. I have my DVD tag, and I'm watching it again and again. Just like as you watch new Netflix, I'm watching E.T. once again, or I'm rewatching E.T. And that's in E.T. you could see that how Spielberg directed children, and this scene of saying goodbye with the E.T. He said as the last one, and he told all the children, you know, that's the last day with the E.T. He has to go away, but don't worry, let's shoot, action. And those children were like, started to cry. And I didn't tell Theodore that he should cry, but I said the producer that this scene has to be the last one. On the film, not in the beginning, because on the, in my schedule I had the end scene on the second day, and that was shock. I didn't even know anything, and there were supposed to things to happen, and I had to come up with many things, and I knew it has to be at the end. And the boy suddenly understood. He was there with a psychologist. Aga Lasko was with us. She was also very careful not to have any problems. I wanted Weronika Książkiewicz to be fully nude, naked, to run across the corridor. I wanted to be so drastic. It occurred that I don't need that, and no child would see a nipple, a penis, because when a girl looks at something, she looks at nothing, and then we did a point of view, and the boy is playing the piano, so nobody saw anything, so they were not exposed to any of that. A boy from a very intelligent family, a well-read one. There was a lot of discussions. Aga was talking to him, but he treated in a Hellinger way, because he saw it's my story. He was observing me more than I could imagine.
Co się wydarzyło, pytałeś się.
So what happened?
Stary,
you ask.
po filmie
After the
znowu
film-
jestem w XXI wieku. Wyobraź sobie, że ja wcześniej słuchałem
After the film, I'm
muzyki z lat
again,
80., 90.,
I'm again in 21st century.
BMX-ie.
Before that, I was
A już w
only
trakcie
driving
kręcenia
ride a
zakochałem się w
BMX,
hulajnogach tych
but
elektrycznych.
I was listening only
I
to
tak
music
jak
from the
po podwórku
1990s.
swoim, bo ja
But
kręciłem to na
after
swoim
the
podwórku
film,
nad
I started
Wilsonem.
to fall in love in
Czasami
electric
Nostalgicznie powracając do tego
scooters.
miejsca, czasami sobie jeździłem jedno okrążenie
Sometimes
przez całe
well,
podwórko na
nostalgically,
rowerze,
I
jechałem gdzieś
was
dalej.
driving
Czasami
on my
mówię,
BMX
chciałbym jeszcze
around my
jedno.
courtyard, then
Czasami
driving away.
chciałbym jeszcze 3, ale wiedziałem, że jak 3 razy
I knew I drove only one circle around. However, sometimes I wanted to ride more, but I knew that if they see me riding 3 times around the courtyard, they would feel it's awkward. But when I was when I was shooting those scenes, I could get on a scooter and ride 20 cycles, and Todd was looking at me and saying, thinking, what is this old guy doing? But I loved this culture, and I loved riding on a bike. I was riding around this culture every day. You know, there's this space in my brain because I could do that on my culture. I knew how to put the camera, where to put the camera. I knew that the cameras where the drunks are coming in with Alec. This is my corner where I could, from which I could always hide, where I could hide my hideaway. That's my favorite shot. You know, I'm opening the part of a frame, and you see only a drunkard who looks like a murderer. You see suspense. You're wondering whom they let into our house. But when Alec falls down, this is my angle from which I remember when I was a 4-year-old. Remember that when I was going through all that when I was 3 and 4-year-old, when I was looking at what's happening, and I could see from that perspective. So I knew where to put the camera, and because I was in my courtyard, I knew which angle would be best. And now I'm in the 21st century. I'm listening to Australian music from current year 2021. I have my own electric scooter. I'm making new music. You will see the musical video from my new LP. It's a very joyful music. My friend, when we made AKX play, he said, well, the last one was so depressing. Now this one, come on, this is good. Why? Because I got a new life. I changed my style. I do not need those t-shirts again. Today I put on my shirt so that you can see that I do not need Star Wars or E.T. on my chest. And I really love that. This is the good time I have since December. I have one more question. I was watching a fragment of your presentation on the press conference in Gdynia, and Sztur said that for him that was an extreme challenge because he was sober all the time. Did you have like some scenes? I think it would be much easier for them to play after the alcohol, because I mean it's a masterpiece that he played it sober. You know what? I showed to Maciek the films of my father when he's sober, so that he knows them, because when I was in Australia, my father is dead already. He passed away, but I have 12 hours of footage on the video when my father talks his wisdoms to me when I'm in Australia. That's incredible when I need to be with my father, and I wish you that you had films of your fathers, not that he's in the party and he's there drinking away. No, the guy is talking to me about life. And I showed that. But I also showed the moment, the cassette when he was drunk, because I knew that my mother would want to get divorced when I go to Australia, so I created a divorce tape, which was thankfully never used. But I showed, and Maciej was shocked, because he said, God, I didn't know that that's how he speaks, that he's on a border, on a border of. Well, they tell me it's the end of my time. Do I still have a minute? Last question. I don't know if I should share this. I don't have a question because we're discussing this film all the time in a cafe here. You were saying that you're a person that draws. You have a huge openness in you, and we can see that from far away. And you were raised, because it's so the film is so personal. After a few minutes, I was convinced, even though I didn't see the end credits, that it's a very personal film. That's why it has shaken me so much. I have 3 sons, so on top of that, the characters in this film, I believe that the whole tragedy is
powiedzą,
in
prawda?
this hour,
Że
what people would
wszyscy
say.
Matka woli po prostu
That
upić ojca,
everybody,
żeby on nie
like,
wychodził, bo co ludzie
The
powiedzą,
mother
żeby
would
był
prefer to get
bezpieczny,
the father
prawda?
drunk so he
po prostu
doesn't leave
tutaj
and he's safe.
musimy, wiesz,
No,
myśmy
no,
opijali
we were
ojca, żeby-
getting
bo
the
on
father
tak
drunk
by pił.
because
To jest
he
dla
would,
bezpieczeństwa.
he would,
Uwierz mi, że
he
on
would
by
drink
tak pił.
anyway.
Nie
He would.
upijamy, nie
We
upiliśmy
don't get
ojca
him
w mieszkaniu,
drunk
dlatego,
in a
żeby-
house because we didn't want to show him
Chodzi o to,
outside.
że myśmy sobie
We
musieli
wanted to
cały
make
czas
things
zrobić
easier
łatwiej.
for
Ale
us.
Nie chcieliśmy, żeby
We
wrócił,
didn't want
wiesz,
him to- for him
samochód go potrącił,
that
albo
he would be
coś.
hit by a
Tylko,
car.
że nie było gdzieś jakiejś takiej możliwości skierowania się o pomoc, że w sumie
But you know, there were possibilities of pleading for help. That the boy is talking to his teacher, and they both pretending. Mother does not go to anybody for help. Everybody lives in their own. Yes, because we're afraid to ask for help, and people don't give help. This is so, you know how bad it is when you ask for money and nobody wants to give it to you. It was like this when each one of them has it. Hi, would you lend me $1,000? No, this is worse than anything. Really, I don't know. I'd prefer not to eat. Guys, thank you very much. All the best to you. Come to cinemas near you. It will be a super comedy. The return to those days. Thank you for being here with me.